Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
TGS just happened, and I don't know why this happened this time, but demos are all over the place all of a sudden, which is really
Yes.
cool and exciting, and not something that
Yeah.
happens very often. So we're going to talk about two demos here today, Valkyrie Elysium and Wo
Mhm.
Long, both of which got demos out kind of in the last week or so.
Mhm.
Valkyrie Elysium comes out in a couple weeks. Wo Long seems like way early for a demo, but it
I
was
I
there.
think that game's come. I think the game's coming out sooner than we think. But anyway, yeah.
But anyway, so we'll start with Valkyrie Elysium, which is one of the 800 Square Enix games that are coming out this year. Um,
Yeah.
it's a follow up to, I think they were PS1 games. I never actually
There's
played any.
two. Yeah. There's
Yep.
two. There's two of them. There's a PS1 game, and there's a PS2 game, and I think there's a PSP remakey, remastery kind of
Remake,
thing of the
yeah.
first game. Yeah.
So anyway, so I have no context for it. Never played it. I
Yeah.
kind of saw the opening trailer, and it's an action RPG. Kind of looks very near in terms of like just if you were to
Yes.
take a quick glance at it, I think you could very
Yeah.
easily fit into okay, this looks like a new Nier game.
Hmm.
Very much different based on everything
Yeah.
else from the demo, but that's kind of the mindset of this, I think. So
Hmm.
I played through this, finished the demo. Uh, it's interesting. I
Yeah.
don't really know how I feel about it. I thought the combat was a lot of fun. There's a lot to
Hmm.
do with the combat, which I thought was really cool. So you play through a tutorial in the first chapter, but the combat is very action RPG. You've got your light attacks, your heavy attacks, but then you've got like R2 has like magic spells. R1 you call
Hmm.
like ghost spirits to come help you. You've got
Yes, I did like that.
it's just had a lot of interesting combat options. I think that kind of took that near stuff and just kind of layered a few things on top of it, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I think it's one of the games that where I was surprised how well it played based on how it looked. I think
Yeah.
I think Square is kind of figuring out this like sort of weird middle ground with these games. Like if we can make these games play well, it doesn't really matter what else goes into them. So yeah, like the combat just feels really really good. Does kind of remind me of some Ease stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and so it's like this really really tight action RPG combat. I liked that your party members, I'm gonna put that in quotes, are more like summons. So like
Yeah.
you have like in the demo you have two summons, but there's like two blank ones as well. So you summon in a guy, then they're fighting in the field, and then you can also use whatever elemental they have.
Hmm.
So I like that. So I summon in my electrical guy, and then I can then choose to use an electrical blade, or I
Yeah.
can summon in my electrical guy, summon in my ice lady who's shooting arrows and stuff, and then I can pick between the two and then figure out which weakness it was. I was just surprised like how fun and tight the combat was. I
Yeah.
just especially because as soon as you start the game, it's like really bad opening movie,
It
kind of fugly
it's
game.
it's one of those things that I like the idea of the like, oh yeah, play the demo, carry over your product. I like that idea in
Yeah, yeah.
theory. But games like this where it's like, okay, like there's not this big like huge opening set piece that's like blowing my
Yes.
mind
Oh,
where
that's a good
it's
point.
kind of
Yeah.
like, all right, we're introing the story. Okay, yup. This demo is probably an hour long. We're gonna spend 15 minutes just telling me this story, and really, I just want that vertical slice of like, here's 15 minutes of cool, fun gameplay.
Yeah.
Because I think I had that same thought where like as I'm sitting there through this opening movie that's explaining all of this mythology
Of
that like
still images of like not even
yes,
moving,
yes,
just still it's like a PowerPoint
still yeah,
presentation.
and it's just like I'm just sitting there like, oof, all right, how much longer is this thing gonna go? Because I'm running out of steam already,
Yeah.
and that kind of led me to this like I don't know if the story was interesting. It had a
Yes.
few parts where I was like, okay, that sounds kind of interesting because it's a lot of like the apocalypse has happened and you're going
Hmm.
back and like certain people and there's a whole lot of stuff going on that I was just like this is all going way over my head for a demo because all I'm here to do is decide is this game fun and is it something that I want to try. And I
Yeah.
think this new tactic of like we're going to let you play the first 2 to 5 hours is assuming that you're coming into the demo with the intent of knowing I already like this game.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and in this situation, it's like I just want to find out if I like this, and you're bombarding
Yeah.
me with all this stuff that's like, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this.
My only my thought on the story was like, oh, this is Near but boring. It's like it's just like I think the thing with like Near that's always fun is like they set up this like lore and then they always twist it and turn all these like different ways. But it's like there's something immediately interesting about Near that it's budget, it's combat, it's whatever. You can still get through that game like, oh, I'm really enjoying it because of the story. And then this one, like you said, it feels very Near with the budget, with the combat, with the good combat. You know, probably the most ugly environments I've seen in a long time. Um, and then the story is just like not grabbing me. Like you said, it's like has like these little dunks. Like this might be interesting, but like every game starts with a bang, and I was like, when's the bang happening? It's been an hour and a half. There's no bang to start this
Yeah.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which again is I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but when I'm
No.
coming in trying to decide if this is something I want to spend $60 on, it's pushing me away from the spending $60 by having me
Yeah.
sit through that. But
Still cool though.
again, it's cool. Like I enjoyed it. I think the you kind of fight two bosses. I think there's one kind of at the end
Hmm.
of the tutorial section, and there's one at the end of chapter 1. Tons of fun. The bosses were really good. They're big giant monstery bosses, which are always really cool.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to. I mean, it's a demo, so I don't know if we could get into spoilers, but um, but they're big giant things that you kind of got to dodge around. There's huge attacks. It has that big stylish action game like Devil May Cry where you've just got these
Yeah.
bosses that are just like towering over you, and that's again the tutorial in the first one. So it it's one of those games where I'm so on the fence. Like
Yeah.
every plus has a minus, and I think had you just given me chapter 1 and you didn't give me the big exposition, I'd be sitting here going like, okay, there's enough of a hook here. But that
Oh,
opening
interesting.
movie, that opening movie, and just like that the slow build setup that I was kind of going through was just like, all right, like this is how this thing's gonna chug along. Like it just the pacing
Yeah.
didn't feel like it was there for me based on again like the hour and a half 2 hour chunk that we got.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't help that there's a lot of Nordic stuff we've seen recently, like God of War,
Yeah,
Assassin's Creed, and this is
I
just the most boring one.
I do think that's starting to weigh on you where it's like in
Yeah.
2018 when God of War did, you're like, okay, cool, we're exploring something else, and then it's like, okay, like, but also this and also
Yeah.
this and
Yeah.
also that. It's just kind of getting beat over the head. Um, I do like the level structure. It very clearly has a very like this is level 1. Go to level
Mhm.
1 world. Go to level. I'm always like that structure more than a like. Here's the big open world that we couldn't quite budget for you to run around in, and it's fairly empty. Where it's just
Sure.
like, go to the big glowing thing. It will take you to chapter 1. Come back. Go
Yeah.
to the big glow. And the levels were really linear. But there was definitely
Yeah.
like some little hidden paths, hidden things here and there. It has some sub quests in there that were like, go over here, try and find this thing, and it kind of took me. I went back and did a couple of them after I finished the first chapter, and it was like, oh, I didn't actually even didn't know this part of the level was over here. Cool.
It felt like a pretty good PS2 game, and I don't mean that as even as a
Yeah.
slight. I just like it's just a very classic-y type of gameplay done pretty well.
Yeah.
I really think I think the game, like the character models look good and everything. The environments just look so bland to me, which that turned me off to it.
Yep.
But I don't know. I'm curious what the reviews are going to be. But yeah, I'm definitely one for the put it on the list sort of thing at some point.
It's
Or at least
definitely
you
like I'll
will.
check. Yeah, it's definitely one that I'd be
Yeah.
interested in checking out. I don't know if it's like jumping to the top of the list, but it's
Mhm.
definitely something where I'm more interested having played this, just
Yeah.
because I wasn't expecting the combat to be there. I was kind of like, okay, I don't know what the story is, whatever the story.
Yeah.
I didn't expect the combat to kind of hook me the way that it did, and just
Yeah.
have a really good hour and a half or 2 hours with it. So
Mhm.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
The other one, I'm gonna let
Mhm.
Doug go off on because the other one is Wo Long, which is an
Yeah.
action game by Team Ninja who did Nioh and Nioh 2. And it is very much that Souls game.
Yeah.
And I did
Yeah.
the tutorial and I was like, okay, I'm kind of feeling this. This isn't too
Yeah.
bad. Like, I get it. Like, and then I jumped into the game and I think I made it about 10 minutes. Like, oh, never
is-
mind.
Yeah, it's disappointingly so when they announced Wo Long is by Team Ninja, it's like, oh, okay, cool, this is their next thing after Nioh. So they did like, Ninja Gaiden, Nioh, this is their new thing after Nioh. So I kind of went into it expecting something like radically different, like, okay, this is going to be cool. It has a unique, I'd say a relatively unique setting. There's not many games that are set in China. So it's like a Souls like kind of inspired by China, which is kind of a neat hook. But it's so just Nioh. It's just like anything I describe. It's like Nioh, but and if you haven't played Nioh, I know that's kind of kidding, but I think it's just a much faster.
But
Souls
playing
game.
Nioh is like saying it's like Souls, but is like
Yes.
Nioh, and this is but it's
Yes,
you're too removed from Souls.
It's a much faster Souls game.
Yes.
And the thing that I didn't like about Nioh, and the thing that is present here, is that it's a very complex Souls game.
There was a
When you're-
lot.
Yeah,
in
and
that tutorial.
when you're playing Souls games, like you really don't have that many actions you can do. You can do like light attack, heavy attack, and then maybe cast a spell. And in this one, you had 3 different spells. Your weapon had 3 different skills. Then you could summon another thing, and then they had this another system on top of it that was like, if you do really good fighting an enemy, you actually do more damage. You can send out more
Yep.
stuff. But if an enemy is hitting you more often, then you do less things. And so
Yep.
you're just balancing all this stuff on top of a really hard Souls game, and it just like it feels like sometimes I feel it's like with a lot of games where they're like, we're gonna do an interesting mechanic that's like a twist on the formula, but it's like
Hmm.
you just added a new mechanic, you made it more complex, you didn't make it necessarily better, and that's the entire time I felt playing this. I was like, it's cool looking because it's next gen, it looks way better than Nioh. Doesn't look super next gen though. I don't know, like comparing to like
It looks
Demon
fine.
Souls and stuff.
It looks fine.
Yeah, like it looked pretty good, but I was expecting like Demon Soulsy sort of level because it is like a next gen exclusive.
Yep.
But as I was going through it, I was like, I feel like I've played this before. I feel like the Chinese setting wasn't used great.
If you didn't know that, I don't think it would have registered. I don't think if you knew that going in, I think you would
Yeah,
have just been like, okay, this is just the same old thing.
it feels like it's using more like an aesthetic than anything like unique from
Yeah.
the culture.
Yep.
Like, so I know this is not going to mean much to anybody, but there's this game called Devotion, which is created by Taiwanese developers, and it feels extremely Taiwanese. And then this one, it's a Japanese developer, and it seems like they're just pulling from like Chinese folklore just to create cool monsters. It's just like a different thing to pull monsters from.
Yeah.
So like you fight a tiger, that's pretty cool. You fight a giant rooster, I mean that's kind of cool. But it just felt like there was nothing really unique outside of just being like a slightly different kind of aesthetic. But there's nothing about it that felt Chinese. It was like really strange. The level design is cool though. I will say I really enjoy the level design compared to other Souls games because there's a lot more verticality and like
Okay.
sneaking up on guys is a much bigger point because a lot of Souls games are fairly linear. I understand like they have kind of like an open world, quote unquote, but as you're actually going through levels, they're fairly linear. But in this one, like once you know where you're going, you're not really finding shortcuts, but you're like, actually, if I jump off this bridge at this one point, I'll be able to skip all these guys, and that's what you're learning with the level design. It's like you're learning the skips, but you just didn't see them before. So I really, really enjoyed that, and I thought that was pretty cool compared to like most Souls games. Because most Souls games, like when you find a shortcut, you kick down a ladder. It's like that's my shortcut. But in this one, you're trying to figure out like it's not telling you the shortcut necessarily. You're just learning the level better, which I thought was like a really neat wrinkle on the thing.
Kind of
Yeah.
almost like a first-person shooter multiplayer where you're learning the map. Part of it is learning
Yes.
the map. It's not
Yeah.
it's not finding something specific. It's okay, I know when I go around this corner I can get into this area better. I know people are normally in this spot. People spawn
Yeah.
here, so if I take that's an interesting take because I think like, you don't see that
Yeah.
outside of like multiplayer games like that.
No, and it's different than Souls games because Souls games like you just know where the enemy patterns are, but in this one you can't really take advantage of it. You can just like meet them ahead of like you just like okay, I know that guy's gonna come out of that corner, but in this one it's like actually if I'm looking at this right and based on what I'm thinking, I can actually get around that enemy going this backwards way that I now learned, and I think that was super super clever and something I'd really like to see with more Souls games. But besides that, game's too hard. It's too
As
hard.
they
It's too
all are.
complicated.
As they all are.
As a Souls fan, it's too hard and too complicated. But I don't know. We'll see. But if you like hard, complicated games, I don't know.
There you go.
It's yeah. Anyway,
It's interesting. I don't know. It's not my thing.
it's got
It's not my thing. It's not
too
my
many
thing.
mechanics. Souls games are really simple, guys. I feel like people forget that they're actually super simple, and then they're like, well, "Let's make it complicated." It's like, let's just not. Let's not do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last part here with TGS stuff, you did a VR tour, I think is what
I
it was.
did.
I still don't, you told me you wanted to talk about this. You're like, we'll just tack it on at the end. We'll just talk about it at the end because it was cool, and I still don't quite understand what this is. So VR tour of TGS.
Yeah, this is for the people who stuck around to the end of the video. So, so what TGS has done since COVID. So TGS, I don't think we actually said it's Tokyo Game Show. It's like E3 for Japan.
Yeah.
Long story short. So, but during COVID, they decided to do these new things like these VR experiences. And you can do it in VR, obviously, but you can also just download an exe file and just like do like a first person walk around thing. And what it is, it's like the TGS show floor, but it's done virtually. So, so like this year, so the thing that's cool is like instead of being like, okay, click on this link to see an ad for a Sega game, you actually walk over to the Sega booth and there's a giant Sonic the Hedgehog and a giant character from Persona, and you can take a picture with them, and they have like floating boxes you can click on, and then you can like watch the trailer or something like that. So it's like this whole thing, like you're exploring like a virtual show floor, and it's really neat because this year's theme, it's like a dig site. So you go on this dig site, and off to each side there's like a forest area, there's a crystal area, and there's a I don't know something else area, But as you go like different, there's like a little map. So it's like, okay, in this area is the Squaresoft, the Capcom booth. Capcom booth is really cool. They had like a 30th anniversary thing for Street Fighter, so you can see all the different characters and all the portraits over the years. And they had some Exoprimal stuff. So there's like a giant T-Rex from Exoprimal in it. When you first come in, there's a giant Gundam and a giant slime from Dragon Quest. But anyway, so it's a dig site, and the idea is the deeper you go in the dig site, the earlier in history you go. So there's characters that are kind of about the VR, they're around the VR world. They're like, oh, why don't you go check out? They're basically just, it's an advertisement thing, but it's a fun advertisement thing. But it was really fun what they did with the dig site is that as you go deeper into the dig site, they do a sort of retrospective from this magazine called Famitsu, which is a Japanese game magazine that's been around since like 1980.
Forever.
Yeah, like early 80s. So you're going down the spiraling thing as it's showing you a magazine from every single year.
Cool.
As you go deeper, the characters become more retro looking. So like they're kind of cool, smooth shaped things at the top, but as you get deeper and deeper, they look like little PS1 characters and they animate a little bit differently. And when you get into in the VR thing, I kind of got. Have you seen A Christmas Story?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. No. It's important. It's important. It's important for context. There's a scene in A Christmas Story when he's listening to a radio show, and every day they're giving a new letter for the secret code for whatever it is. And then so he's been listening for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we figured out the secret code. It says, "Please drink your Ovaltine." It was just an ad.
Yeah.
So I went through a similar experience with this TGS VR thing. So one of the things they do is like in each of the areas, there's a sacred thing. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a sacred thing. And then like you activate in each area and then something activates. In order to light the sacred flame, you just have to watch ads for all the different games. You have to go to each booth, watch all of their ads. They have like little missions, like take a photo with Cloud's bike. Like they have the model in there and you have to take a photo with yourself. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of high on the mothered stuff of like, I'm going to figure this out. Nobody's figured out this VR, this TGS thing. So I went through, I watched every freaking ad in this thing, most of them in Japanese, all of them in Japanese. And I was like, and then so I'm lighting all these flames. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get to the end. And so you're opening these sacred objects, and one is a controller, one is hardware, one is software. And so you go deep and you go all the way down the bottom. You go through this old television, it's spark. And then you get to a scene, it says, please do not take video of this, in English and in Japanese. I was like, this is going to be amazing. And then they play a video in which they're like the sacred items, hardware, software, controller. And then we need the fourth one, you, the player. I just like, God damn it.
How many hours did you spend watching Japanese ads to get that fantastic secret?
I'd say about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I was having fun. Taking pictures next to like Cloud from Crisis Core and Zack and I don't know, taking pictures of a giant Gundam. But I just couldn't believe that. I was like, that's the sacred thing, that I am the fourth. I'm the player. I was just like, this is so freaking stupid.
There's just a mirror down there with you.
Yeah. So Hideo Kojima, the reason I got super into this is Hideo Kojima had a booth. They had one for Kojima Productions in which you could walk into the hallway from Kojima's thing, and then they also had like some Death Stranding thing, but they had a poster in there that said for his new game. And I was like, this has got to be it. And that was not it. It was told that players are important. I was so fucking pissed.
I'm pretty sure by the time you found this, somebody, if it was a big Kojima thing, somebody would have found it. Let's be honest.
No, I know that's fair. That's totally fair. I thought, but I was like, nobody's gonna spend this much time on this, and I was right. Nobody did.
Nobody did, and neither should I have. And now I just did a marketing campaign for an hour and a half.
But it's super fun. It's super fun and weird. I think they should do one for E3, but they won't. No.
No. E3's gone. Anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye.